all you cool cats and kittens. We are doing step 3, building self-esteem in the early years. If you do not have a step book, I want you to reach out to us. We will be giving out step books. We're going to be giving out step books, and anyone who has signed up for this session will be getting the books that they would have gotten in our program. So books for your kids. So in the next week or so, we're planning out what cities we're going to and how we're going to distribute those. So anyone who doesn't have a step book, whether you were in this session or not and you need one, let us know. We'll get you one. But it will take a little bit, so just be patient. We're still trying to figure stuff out, like everyone. I don't know how many people are on yet. I'll give it just a couple minutes because we're going to be talking about self-esteem, and this is one of my favorite chapters that we do in STEP because I think it's so important. It's important to build self-esteem for you, for your kids. Answer them. Oh, everyone participating on our Facebook Live videos will also be able to get books. So if you have been doing this, whether you've come to a previous session or not, we'll hook you up with some books. Mainly because we love books and we love to give away books. So I'm going to be like Oprah right now. You get a book, you get a book, you get a book. Miss Felicia's going to get a book, but she won't read it. It's okay. She's working on art stuff right now. So as we're talking about this, we're talking about what is self-esteem. Self-esteem is the belief that we belong and that we are accepted, strong and capable, and loved. And that should be what we want for all of our children, right? That they are capable of being strong, independent adults, that we love them, and there's no question in that. So the things we do now are going to lead to the self-esteem our kids have as adults. So the more we encourage them, the more we love them, the more we hug them, the more we see their uniqueness, the stronger their self-esteem will be as adults. So what's the best way to build self-esteem? I don't know if anyone's on who's done STEP before and is answering this, but the best way to build self-esteem is respect. That's respect for yourself, so you're showing self-respect. So your kids see that you're strong and you respect yourself and you have a good self-esteem. And then also respecting your children. Your child's not going to have a great self-esteem if you're like, oh my gosh, you're so dumb, I can't believe you just did that. Or you're so terrible at math, you'll never be a scientist. That's not respectful and it won't help your children at all. One of my favorite reasons that we do this lesson is because we talk about respecting yourself as a parent. And that's really hard for us sometimes. Whether it's because we weren't given respect as children and maybe we don't have the best self-esteem because of that. Maybe it's because becoming a parent has redefined us and it makes us a little different. I'm going to talk specifically to moms because that's a little bit different. Hi, Tracy. I know for me, when I became a mother, my body changed and that was very hard and difficult for me. I had a full-time career before I had my oldest, and I had been in my career for a decade. And to go from having a career to then being a stay-at-home mom with a baby who didn't talk, and I had talked every moment of the day in my old career, was very, very difficult. I would just talk to my baby and she wouldn't say anything back, and then my husband would come home and he's an introvert and he had been talking all day, so he would just want to be alone, and I'd be like, someone talk to me, this is so hard. So me as a person had to change when I became a mother, and that's easier for some people than it is for others. But learning to accept yourself in your new role, whether it's a mother, a grandmother, because sometimes that's a hard transition too, becoming a single parent, there's all sorts of different transitions that we have in our life. And if we respect ourselves and we give ourselves self-care and we learn how to negotiate that new role in our life, the more self-esteem we'll have and the more it will show with our kids. So you as a parent have to be the example to your children. If you're looking in the mirror and you're like, ugh, I look so gross today. Ugh, look at this roll, it's terrible. Ugh, look at these stretch marks, I look so disgusting. What are your kids thinking? What are they hearing? If you're calling yourself fat and your 2-year-old gains a little weight and you're like, oh, look at how fat you are, you're so chubby, but you're saying it as a negative to yourself, they're never going to see that as a positive. If you don't have any friends and you don't do anything for yourself, what does that look like for your kids? Part of self-care and respecting yourself is that you do things for yourself. And that's so huge. I think it's hard for us to do self-care sometimes. I know for me personally, it's hard. I love my kids. And so then I think, well, if I'm not with them every second, like I'm not being the best mom. But I am. Like I need to have adult friendships. I need to go and take time for myself. And what does that look like right now? It's very hard to do self-care, I think, while we're being isolated at home. I mean, I have my kids and my husband around me most days, 24 hours a day. It's hard to escape. Like my self-care used to be go to Target or get a manicure. And now my self-care is I'm going to hide in my bedroom and read a book for an hour, which is fine. It's just trying to adjust to something new. So you as a parent need to take time for yourself, because the more time you have for yourself, when you come back to your kids, they're really excited to see you, right? Like if you've gone and done something and you come home, they're like, oh, Mommy, Daddy, whatever it is. And you get bunches of hugs and then they're excited to tell you everything. But if you've been with them for 4 days straight, like is currently happening, they're real bored of you and you're kind of bored of them. And you don't get that same interaction. Hi, Ash. So take time for you. Notice your beauty and not just outer beauty, inner beauty. Notice the things that make you great, because every single one of you has children that say, you're the most beautiful mommy in the whole world, or you're so fun to play with, Daddy. I love it when you do this. Your kids think you're the best person that has ever lived. And so you need to feel that about yourself too. When we're helping our children learn respect, the best way to do that is to respect them. It seems like that's a no-brainer and that's pretty basic, but we've all been out in the world and seen how some people treat children. And not necessarily parents, but other people that we live in a society where someone's always complaining about kids or doesn't like it that kids go to a restaurant and behave normally and they're loud, or school's out so they don't like kids running around the neighborhood being normal children. So we have to really show our kids respect so they can learn it, and then we teach them how to show respect to others. So who has pets? One way that kids start learning early is if you have pets in the home, your toddler. Oh, nope, we don't grab Kitty's tail because that hurts her. This is how we pet Kitty, nice and gentle. Oh, nope, we don't ride our doggy. They're not a horse, it's not okay. You can give a doggy hugs, you can give it pets, you can give them a treat, but just like the puppy won't ride you, you can't ride the puppy. So teaching little things in everyday life, children learn to be considerate. And that means putting boundaries too, that you teach your child your boundaries and other people's boundaries so that they know when there's a hard line in the sand. Like, okay, you can give me hugs, but maybe you wait 5 minutes after I wake up because I'm really grumpy in the morning. Or it's fine to jump on me if you give me a warning first. Appreciate what's special about your kids. Ash says it's a good point about looking in the mirror when your kids are there and saying negative things about ourselves. I totally agree. And that's something that I feel is really hard. I talk about when I'm in step lessons in a group, how society kind of really pushes women, especially, not to say positive things about themselves, because then you look conceited. Whereas if you're a man saying something about yourself, you're considered confident. And so kind of letting go of societal sexism that we have and saying, it's okay to say, I'm an amazing mom, because I am. And I look really pretty today. Partly that's because I put on makeup. Lizzie, it is so hard to do self-care with your kids. They are, especially right now, they're underfoot. They want your attention 24 hours a day. And realistically, kids usually want mom over dad. So in our case, even though my husband's home, my kids will go to him, but really it's mom, mom, mom. So Lizzie, tell me some ways you're trying to do self-care during this. Hi, Laura. How are you? One thing that we can do to show our kids respect is notice things that make them special. What's unique about your child? It might be that they're a really great artist, or they're super kind and loving, that they have a heart for animals, or they really appreciate nature. There's so many things that make our kids special and unique. Makes them different from their siblings or their cousins or the other kids in their class. So focus on what makes your kids unique, and that you appreciate what they're doing and their love for whatever it is. Even things as simple as loving Legos or playing with monster trucks. That ties in with supporting your children's interest. I have 2 girls that are very much like me, so currently that's not a problem for me. But I've been around kids that like things, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, my kids aren't old enough for Fortnite, but I have like my little nieces and nephews like Fortnite, and I'm like, okay, there's that weird flossy dance, and I think there's characters. But if it was my own, I still try to be interested in what they tell me, and I listen, and I'm attentive. But with my own kids, there's going to be things that they're going to like that have no interest to me. And instead of saying like, that's boring, go do that on your own, try to engage your kids. They probably listen to your boring stuff sometimes too, so you're a family unit. You engage in the same things. Try to figure out what they like and how you can be part of that with them. Give choices. I will say give choices every single week, because giving choices is the key to raising happy, healthy kids. And that doesn't mean that there's no boundaries on those choices, but when your children are asking for something or doing something or trying to assert power, giving them choices allows them to do that in a safe way. And so they feel more encouraged and they feel more powerful, and you still have the boundaries of what's appropriate and not. Help your kids learn from mistakes. And this is hard, I think, sometimes for all of us. Sometimes we don't want to admit mistakes. Some people are better at it than others. Oh, redirect my children when they are negative. That's a great one. Thanks for that. It's hard. We all get negative sometimes. And so not wallowing in that negativity and maybe saying like, hey, my daughter's learning how to read. She's in kindergarten. And she's very much like me, that when she tries something new, she wants to be amazing at it the first time. So she had a meltdown the other day because she wasn't doing as well reading this particular book than she normally does. And we have to remind her that, yes, it's going to take practice and it's going to be hard and we're going to do all these things. Let's not focus on what you didn't do well. Let's focus on what you're doing right. Because you did say these sight words really amazingly. And this word's kind of hard because English is kind of hard. And it doesn't always make sense. Oh, Felicia lets her husband take a big role in caring for her kids so she can have time on her own. I'm not going to lie, I have an amazing husband, but it is hard for me to give up control. Hi, Azina. It's hard for me to give up control to other people, just in life in general, and then for my husband, who doesn't parent exactly the way I do, and doesn't do the things I do. And he's more apt to than like letting the kids watch an hour of TV when I'm gone. So I have to kind of let that go and say, I need self-care. I need to do something for myself. You take the kids and no one's going to die from watching an hour of TV or watching a movie. So if you have a partner, which not everyone does, that's a great way. If there's even friends that can let you take a break or do something for a little bit, let them help. Don't be too proud to accept help in order to do self-care. Help your kids learn from their mistakes. This is a hard one because it's hard for everyone. But knowing that your child can make a mistake, it will be okay, they won't get into trouble, and they can try again is huge. Think about if you are at work or you're in an interpersonal relationship and you make a mistake, and instead of the person getting mad, they say, let's try this again. Let's work together. Let's do something else. You wouldn't be you would have a much different feel. Like, I feel like that currently at Fun Band, that if I make a mistake, my boss is going to be supportive and say, let's figure this out, as opposed to, ooh, I made a mistake, now I'm going to get fired. So that changes the dynamic of a workplace. It also changes the dynamic of a parent-child relationship, that if they feel safe coming to you about a mistake, or they feel that it's okay if they make a mistake, they're more likely to learn from it. Another thing that is hard is using encouragement. Encouragement's very hard because encouragement's a little bit harder than praise. Praise is when your child brings you a drawing and you say, great job, and then you move on. Or, it's so pretty, and you move on. That's praise. And praise is very, very easy, and praise is good in small doses and in certain times. But encouragement is really what builds your child's self-esteem. Encouragement lets your child feel accepted, strong, capable, and loved. So when you're looking to show encouragement, your child brings you a picture and you say, wow, I liked how you used those colors to draw your dinosaur. Or it seems like you worked really hard to draw that plant. Fill in the blank of whatever is in your child's interest. Ooh, Lizzie watches her shows while her child naps. I love that a good shower is like the most amazing thing as a mom, because either we don't have enough time to take a good shower, our kids are in the shower with us, someone's crying and bugging us. Lizzie, good for you, girl. Take a good shower and love those face masks. I was going to do one last night and didn't, so I'm hoping sometime this week I'm getting one in. I love it, girl. Your child, instead of just saying, oh, good job, because good job is great, but it doesn't give them any feedback, right? And then kids get addicted to it. And then you have someone like me that's like, why aren't you saying I did great on everything? And wait, I'm not immediately good at this task? That's hard. That's hard to come out of as an adult. So we need to be starting with our kids and showing encouragement, like show them where they worked hard and ask them questions like, oh, you did really great on this dinosaur. Next time, what could you do to add to that picture when you do another one? Different things like that to really encourage their love of something or to help them with something that's hard. If your child's practicing math and they're like, I know that 2 + 1 = 4, and you're like, good job, and you move on, you're not helping your child. But if you say, oh, buddy, I'm sorry, but 2 + 1 doesn't equal 4. Let's count them together. And then he tries again, and you say, wow, you worked to count those numbers, and that's what you're trying to get at. That's your goal, is to get kids to try more than once, to get them to be proud of the stuff that they do, even if they fail. A lot of times we talk in society of people feel like everyone gets a ribbon and everyone gets a trophy, and now we have a whole group of millennials, which it's not really millennials. I'm a millennial. This is not our group. It's Gen Z, but a group of people that are whiny babies about stuff and just expect everything to be given to them. If you don't want that for your child, really work on encouraging. And it's hard. It's hard to take that extra 3 seconds to say, I noticed this, instead of saying, good job. And it doesn't, when you say it like that, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but we're all busy. If my kid comes to me while I'm cooking dinner, it took a lot for me to be willing to cook dinner, so then I need to focus on cooking dinner. and maybe I just say good job and move on. Oh, so Felicia is working on listening and not reacting when a mistake is made, right? Because sometimes I think we think of mistakes as like your kid trying to work on something and then failing, but sometimes it's your kid spilled milk, and instead of being like, ah, now I have to clean up all this milk, you say, what happened? And then just listen. Maybe your kid tripped. Maybe they didn't realize that they and talked with their hands and the milk went flying. That it's not purposeful. So listening and then coming up with a, okay, so what should we do next time? How can we solve this problem? Other ways to encourage your child. The easiest way is to love and accept them. Your child will have other interests other than yours. They will make decisions that you don't always agree with. They will do things that don't align with your belief system. For the most part, they will, because you've ingrained that into them in these early years. But as your kids get older, they will have other outside influences, and it may not always be what you would think or what you would do, but accepting your child through that. That's very hard, because we all think we're right. I mean, I totally think I'm the most right person that's ever lived. But my child might grow up and, well, for example, I do not eat meat. I haven't eaten meat in a million years, and my 5-year-old does. Tracy said she was overpraised, her oldest, and now she struggles with him being a perfectionist. Yeah, me too. I hate not doing stuff perfectly. And that's hard, and that does come from overpraising. And your kids do lose it when something's not done well. So, for example, I don't eat meat, and my 5-year-old has decided that she wants to eat meat sometimes because her father eats meat. That's hard for me. I am morally opposed to eating meat. So to see her choose something, and I totally do the, that was a baby cow that you're eating, or remember that cute pig that we saw? You're eating it. I'm terrible, I know, it's fine. But for me, that is a moral choice, and she's choosing not to do that. And I encourage her to try to choose to not eat meat, for sure, I'm not saying that. But at the same time, like, she is old enough to make the decision. She knows where meat comes from. She knows what has to happen in order for her to eat some ground beef and a taco or whatever. And so I have to let her make that choice. It's not the choice I would make, but I still love her and will love her regardless if she eats meat or not. And it is very hard to get out of saying good job. I mean, we say good job for everything. There's stickers that say good job, and then we post them all over everything. That's the best thing as a kid, getting my good job sticker. So we've been indoctrinated to say that since we were kids. Have faith in your child. Kids can do much more than we give them credit for. Emotionally, they can't. I think sometimes we give kids way too much credit for what they can handle emotionally. That's why we say, like, why are you crying over the crust being cut off your bread? Because they're 2. But then we say, oh, this 2-year-old also can't drink out of a regular cup because they might spill. Your 2-year-old totally can drink out of a regular cup. They can eat with a spoon and a fork. They can do all these other things. Physically, your child is capable of a lot more than you give them credit for. So let your kids rise to the occasion. Let them prove to you what they can do. And even if you give them a cup for the first time and they spill 7 times in a row all week, they'll eventually get it. So give them the opportunity to do that. Because it's weird to send a 5-year-old to school with a sippy cup. Notice effort and improvement. That maybe your kid spills every single time they drink the first day, but the next day they drink their whole cup and didn't spill once. Oh my gosh, you didn't spill your cup at all. Now you don't have to clean up everything. Let's fill it up again and see if you cannot spill. Appreciate your child. Notice the things that they do. Our kids are amazing and wonderful, and they do kind things all the time. Notice it and say something. Sometimes we get so bogged down with, don't do that to your sister. Don't take that from your brother. Get down from there. Don't do this, don't do that. Instead of saying, hey, you shared your blocks with your brother. That was really sweet. Oh, you're hugging your sister. So kind. I love when you guys hug each other. Notice the good things that your kids do. Because I know I do a lot better when when the things I do well get noticed. Whether it's at work, at home, with my spouse, with my kids. Like, if I worked really hard on dinner and my child says, hey, this is a really good dinner, Mommy. I'm like, yes, maybe I'll make dinner tomorrow night instead of giving you a smoothie. You know, I don't cook. So when I do, it's nice to be appreciated. The same thing with our kids. Everyone likes to be appreciated, and the more you notice the good things your kids are doing, the more they'll do them because they're getting attention for it. The book says, praise is the reward. Children can earn it, but encouragement is a gift. You don't need to earn it. You just give it to your children. And I think that's really powerful, that you want your kids to be the best that they can. So really use words that encourage your children. And not things like saying like, sometimes we use encouragement, but it's like a negative. I'm trying to think of, oh, you worked hard on that. I wish you always would. Yeah, you worked hard on that. Great. I wish you always would. Maybe you feel your kid is lazy, but saying like that negative part on the end, they're like, and they're not going to try. Your perception of them, this goes back to beliefs that we talked about last week, is that they are lazy. And so if you feel like you're already thought of as lazy, what's your motivation to try harder? So don't try to add that negative, just be positive with it. How do you encourage your child to learn? Right now, we're in a weird time that no one's going to preschools, no one's going to elementary school. So how are we encouraging our kids to learn? Because as much as I love teaching, I'm not a homeschool mom. So I am not doing traditional schooling at home with my child during this pandemic. But there's other ways of doing this that my child's teacher is sending out a guideline of what they would be doing in school right now. So they're learning, the last 2 weeks it was about bugs. My kid's super into bugs. Like, her goal in life is to be an entomologist, which is a scientist who studies bugs, for those of you who don't know. That I learned that from her because that's what she wants to do. By the way, bugs don't interest me, but they interest my kids. So we go on nature walks, and we look at things under a microscope, and we try to find bugs around our house that she can look at and be near. We watch bug videos and do different things like that. That you don't have to do formal schooling. You don't have to sit with your kid and say, here's a worksheet, learn these sight words. Because very few people learn really well that way. How you encourage your kids' learning is talking about it. While you're sitting at the dinner table and you see the mustard bottle, spell out mustard with your child. If they're younger, while you're setting the plates, let's count the plates that we're setting down at the table. 1, 2, and they count with you. Then they can do it on their own as they're setting the table. Just through your normal day life, talk to your kids about different things. Oh, what color is that? Oh, what do you think that is? Ask questions. And that facilitates learning. That's what really gets our kids' brains thinking and moving. And then if they don't know the answer and you don't know the answer, we live in a technological age where we can find the answer to anything. If my parents didn't know the answer when I was a kid, we had encyclopedias, and maybe they were up to date enough that we could ask, or you could try to find it, or my parents made up something, or they said they did. I don't know. But now we have an Alexa at our house, and so we can ask her, or I can press on my phone and say, why is the sky blue? And do different things like that. So your kids can get all the answers that they need, and maybe those answers are too advanced for them, but then you have that ability to make it age appropriate for them. Make learning fun. Worksheets are not fun for anyone. I mean, they just really aren't. And sometimes worksheets are needed in a formal school setting, but at home, You're not going to get your kid to learn math by just drilling worksheet after worksheet after worksheet. That's not going to happen. So how can you make it fun? And if you do a worksheet, say, okay, if you do all your problems and you get 9 out of 10 right, we can go do this activity, or we can do this, or you can choose what we have for dinner tonight. That you can incentivize to make things more fun, because that's hard. It's hard to get kids to break away from whatever they're doing to do more formal learning. But preschool age does not need formal learning. Play is learning. I want to make that very clear, that we as a society feel like little kids need to have very structured learning. They don't. Play with your children. They'll learn about physics by building up Legos and watching them fall. They'll learn about colors as you're coloring pages and talking about art. They will learn how to read by you reading to them. All of that stuff encourages things in your child to learn, and they'll be kindergarten ready. My child never went to preschool. We learned through play and doing, and she was totally kindergarten ready. So keep that in mind. How do you show love to your kid? For some people, that's really obvious. You tell them, I love you. You hug them. But there are kids that aren't told that they are loved. And not that their parents don't love them, they just don't say it. Or they're not a touchy-feely family. Your kids need to be touched, they need to be hugged, and they need the obvious of, I love you. That is, they don't know. If you have to remind your kids 17 times to wash their hands, or to not pick their nose, or to pick up their shoes, you need to tell them even more times that you love them so they know that. Ashley says she loves these learning from home ideas. Learning from home, I mean, like I said, I'm not a homeschooler, so that's not my jam, but there's so many things you can do at home to facilitate learning, whether you choose to homeschool your older kids, or whether you just do it after school or while you're on breaks or any things like that. Like, home is where your kids are learning the most. Spend time with your child. And when I say spend time with your child, don't sit on your phone and have them next to you and be like, oh yeah, that's a building. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, Barbie totally thinks Ken's cute. Yeah. Let's keep moving on. Be there. Be present with your child. And it's hard now. The downside of technology is that we feel we have to be connected all the time. And I think it's something that most parents struggle with, because most of us have smartphones, and we have other things that people can get a hold of us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so sometimes I feel like, I really need to answer that text message. I heard it go off in the kitchen, and what if it's imperative? No one's going anywhere. It's definitely not imperative. So maybe we wait for us to be done playing with our kid and then go answer that text message. Maybe we don't need to update every block that our child puts on their building on Facebook. Wait until it's all done, take a picture, and then move on. I'm going to repeat this because I think it's so true. Show love through touch. The way you touch your child shows how you feel about them. Whether it's hugging them, sitting on your lap to read, you touching their head, giving them a kiss, however that looks, that's how you show touch. If you're snatching your kid by their arm, if you're doing rough and hard things with them. Now, a caveat to that is you can wrestle around with your kids, especially boys really need that outlet to get out some of that energy and aggression, and you can do that in a healthy, loving way. You don't slam your kid against the wall while you're wrestling. It's not WWE, but you can toss them on the bed and then tickle them, and that's totally fine. That your child will feel how you love through touch. So keep that in mind, that the touch you give to your child is how they feel love. And there are times that we get really angry and you are like, oh, I'm so frustrated, especially now. We talked about how child abuse cases are up. And that's because you don't have an escape from your child right now. And that's very, very hard. And sometimes even not in a pandemic, if you're home with your kids and one's sick or one's napping or there's a reason that you can't leave the house for whatever, you get frustrated, and a lot of times it's human nature to sometimes get out that aggression physically. But if you feel like you're getting to that point, you need to take a break, because it is better for you to say, I'm upset right now, I need a moment, and go lock yourself in the bathroom or your closet or whatever and have your kid crying outside until you can calm down, than to strike your child or to do something like throw something near your child and have that happen. So keep that in mind, is that even something as you call your neighbor over and say, I need a minute, can you just make sure my kids are safe? Miss Felicia and I were talking that it's not the same exact scenario, but if someone right now had their kids in the car and said, can you just watch them while I run into the store and grab something real quick? I'll stare at your kids in the car and wait and make sure they're safe until you come back. Same thing as if a neighbor ever said, I'm having a really hard time, can you just watch my kids, make sure they're safe for a few minutes? Absolutely, and I think most of us would do that for each other. Sometimes I just call my friend and say, I'm having a really hard day, my kids are driving me nuts, I just need you to tell me how your kids are driving you nuts so I remember that it's normal, and then we move on. Because it's hard for everyone. There's crisis lines that I can put some resources up. There's, if you want to know if your kid is normal because they're doing something really weird or random, like right now, my potty-trained 3-year-old keeps having accidents, and it's really if I had to go somewhere or if someone else comes into the house, because she's used to me being there 24/7 with her, because she doesn't go to preschool and I'm usually home. So now that my husband's home, it's like this new person and it's throwing her off. So she's having accidents, especially when he's engaging, just because she's not used to it. It's not anything bad, it's not anything negative, and you don't yell about it. You just say, okay, you had an accident, let's change you and we'll try again tomorrow. But those things that we have to know, that's totally appropriate, that it's not something that she's doing to be mean or awful or spiteful. She's having a hard time, and that comes out physically sometimes in littles. So I will put up some resources after this video is over. Childcare is hard. We're going to talk about that because you want to find good childcare out there, and whether that's a friend temporarily watching your child, a formal preschool, an in-home daycare, whatever an after-school program, whatever that looks like for you, that when you go in to any childcare, look for things. Look to see if the home or center is safe. That just a couple months ago, that really expensive dollhouse looking child care center in Gilbert, what is the name of it? Like something Playhouse. Their gate was broken, and the whole class of 2-year-olds wandered out of the gate onto Bella Vista Road, full on in the middle of the day with cars coming. It's a beautiful child care center. I mean, it literally looks like a castle. But one basic thing is the lock was broken and these kids went out into the road. So look around. Are things safe? And they should be safer even than you have at your home, because they're watching children. So make sure that things are locked up, things are put away, that the doors are secure and different things like that. Can you trust the caregiver? Are the caregivers, do they have background checks? Do you feel safe leaving your child with them? Do they have knowledge of child development? Ask questions like, how do you handle this situation? If my kid chucks a toy at another child, what do you do? Are there toys and materials for your kids to do? Is there one bouncy ball and 3 blocks over there, or do they have a variety of things? Do they have stations, centers? Is there time for art? Is there reading time? Are they doing things to keep your kids occupied and encouraging them to learn? Any childcare that you use should align with your beliefs, whether it's about discipline, daily routines, food that they're giving your child. If you eat a certain way and they're doing the opposite, that's something to think about. And then what are their policies on that? How much can you as a parent be involved? No one, as a former daycare employee, I wouldn't want a parent sitting there all day watching my every move, but I would never keep a parent out of a classroom either. That there's a balance in that your child's never going to feel comfortable if you're sitting there all day every day, and then what's the point of sending your child to childcare? But also, if the room is closed off and you're never allowed to look and you're never allowed to see things, that should be a red flag. What are the licensing requirements in Arizona? If anyone wants the link to that, just let me know and I'll put a link. But that there's licensed and unlicensed childcare in Arizona. And if you have over 10 children that you're watching, is it 10? I think it's 10. That you are now need to be licensed. So what does that look like? Is the person watching your child have 15 kids and they're not licensed, so they're being sneaky? That's something that you need to think. Felicia, Felicia. I have a Felicia here, a Felicia there. They're both spelled the same. You're welcome. I'm hoping that I'm going to have a good day with my kids too when I'm done here. So I hope you have a great day with Joe and Lucia. And then how many children are for each adult? Because even with licensing that we have in our state, it's 6 babies to 1 adult. And I'll be real honest, I don't even know if I would have been able to handle twins when they're little, much less 6 little babies that need to be fed and changed and cuddled and take naps and do all that to 1 adult. And you might not have an option because I don't know of any childcare that doesn't do 5 or more kids per adult. So, okay. So someone said any amount over 4 kids, you have to have a license for in-home providers. So if you're trying to put your child with someone and they have over 4 children in their center, they need to be licensed. But look at state ratios, look at different things like that, and get a feel. Like, if you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason, don't send your kid there. Go with your gut. Because that's why you have one. Those motherly instincts or fatherly instincts will help guide you. It's not always 100%, but it will help. If you feel weird for a reason, don't do it. Last thing I'm going to say is have the courage to be imperfect. When we're showing our kids respect and we're teaching them to learn from their mistakes, tell your kids, I was wrong about this. I made this mistake. Oh, I did this wrong, but I'll try again. I made dinner one time and I forgot something and it turned out terrible. And I said, I forgot this ingredient in our dinner, and so that's why I think it was like soupy or whatever. That's okay. Next time I do this recipe, I'll remember it and it will be fine. That we, as human beings, make mistakes, and our kids need to know that we're imperfect sometimes, and that it's okay for them to make mistakes because we make mistakes. And how we handle those mistakes is teaching them how to handle theirs. So if I was like, this dinner is terrible, I did it wrong, and then I throw everything in the trash and then stomp off and cry, how are my kids going to act when they make a mistake? They might still do that because they're kids and they're still trying to regulate their emotions, but they have a greater increase of doing that if they see us behaving that way. So, this week, your homework is to focus on encouraging your kids and respecting yourself. Hopefully I will remember next week to ask you about what you did for self-care, but I want you to do at least one self-care thing this week. I want you to say something in front of your kid that shows that you respect yourself. And every day, do at least 5 encouraging things for your kid. So that's your homework. Thank you for watching. Bye all you cool cats and kittens.